Hello YouTube. Today we're going to try to tackle a tough subject. First of all, I want to start off by saying that these are my opinions. My wife and I, we've sold RVs in the past, and we've worked in RV dealers, and we've seen a lot of good units and we've seen a lot of bad units, and this is my opinion of what I believe. We're going to work towards getting people educated on what kind of RVs are available out there. First of all, I want to start off by saying also that there is no such thing really as a full-time RV. There's mobile homes and there's park models, which are about the closest thing you're going to get. A lot of the newer RVs are attempting to use more household appliances, which has problems with boondocking and things like that. But for the most part, an RV is a recreational vehicle designed to go out multiple times a year, spend your weekends, maybe take a 2-week vacation, but they're not really designed to be 24/7 all year long lived in. So if you're thinking that you're going to move into an RV and never have a problem, that's probably not going to happen. You're going to be working on it probably more than a house to certain extents. But the thing with an RV is that if you maintain your stuff, you know, there's a lot of little electronics things that you can maintain and different things like that. That if you keep those up, you'll find yourself not having problems when you least want them to happen. So that's my recommendation, and as time goes on, we're going to give you more information on that, like replacing all the sensors on a hot water heater, and you know, if you're starting to get little quirks in your refrigerator, you can replace the control panel, things like that. So that's going to be for a future date. Today we're going to just try to talk about buying an RV. Buying an RV is different than buying an automobile. I actually think a lot of the RV salespeople can be a lot bigger ripoffs than car salesmen can be. For some reason, they just have a completely different attitude than car people. For the most part, if you get a RV salesperson that somebody has recommended to you and you feel like you can halfway trust them, now understand that any kind of RV salesperson is going to want to be best friends with you the moment they meet you and gain your confidence so they can gain access to your money. So I always put in my heart that this guy I'm gonna have dealings with, and as soon as I'm done dealing with that person, I'm probably never gonna really have any more dealings with them. We don't need to be best friends. The whole thing about it is that whatever decisions you make, you have to live with. He's just going to count the money. So go in with the idea that you're going to try to save as much money as possible, and you know, and just be very cautious what you tell people, especially salespeople, because they will use all that stuff against you. When you buy an RV, the difference between buying an RV and a car is a new RV and a new car. Cars have a limit law. RVs don't. When you buy it, you're stuck with it. The only thing you can attempt to do is get an attorney to force them to fix them and stuff like that. I tend to believe in buying older RVs. A lot of people may not want to do that. A lot of people want brand new stuff, and that's fine. But then you've got to deal with the dealership, and you got to deal with the warranties and all that kind of stuff. You can also buy extended warranties. You got to be careful when you buy those, because some of them are good, some of them are terrible. They're great if it's a good one and you have a problem and they pay the bill. They're terrible if you have a problem and they don't pay the bill and you paid, you know, a couple of $1,000s for an extended warranty. So here's my thought process. This is probably going to take more than just one part. It's going to take a few parts because we're going to talk about different RVs. But important things with RVs that a lot of people, they say, well, you know, we don't really need anything with a thermal package and dual pane windows and sealed bottoms and all that kind of stuff, heated tanks, those type of things. Well, just ask the people that were in Florida and Texas this year that thought they were going to a warm climate and got stuck in the snow. You can get in real trouble real fast with these rigs. When your stuff starts freezing up, believe me, if you ever have to replace a black or gray water tank, you're going to find that you just don't go down to the store and they have one just sitting there that fits right in your motorhome or your RV, whatever RV you have. You're going to need something that's basically custom fitted, or you're going to have to modify your RV to fit the tank. So preserving those tanks is an important thing. If you buy an RV and you get the right price on it, and you notice that the undercarriage is not covered, there's no insulation under there, the tanks are wide open, they're just hanging down, you're going to want to put some heat strips on there, and you're going to want to seal the bottom. A lot of the things with like the trailers, with travel trailers and fifth wheels, a process of buying an RV that suits you, what I always recommend to people is if you don't have a lot of money and you just want to get on the road and give it a try, you don't want to spend a lot of money on it, you can do it in a travel trailer. There's no problem with that. They're usually not quite as comfortable as a fifth wheel or a motorhome. They usually don't have near the storage that a fifth wheel or a motorhome would have. So those are things you might want to look into. But if somebody's just going to test drive it, they're probably going to want to keep a house or a storage place or something with their furniture and everything else. So you don't really need to have a lot of storage. But if you're like us and you decide you're going to go into it full blast, we still have a storage. And only because I have a lot of tools and things from when I had my shop, and I'm not going to sell those items. They're going to end up somewhere when I die, but I'm not going to get rid of them before I do. What I would suggest is determine what you want. Now, fifth wheel tends to be much better unit for when you're parked. If you're going to stay in a spot for a long time, you get a lot of interior space in a fifth wheel that you sometimes don't get quite as much in a motorhome. But if you spend more time traveling down the road, it's a lot more convenient to be able to just pull into Walmart, park, close the front curtains, go to bed, get up in the morning, do everything right in here, open the curtains and take off. You got your restroom, you got your kitchen, you have everything you need when you're traveling. You're not having to get out. And a lot of times, if you ever notice travel trailers and stuff with two doors, normally what that is one door goes into the bathroom, because the slide out is going to block you from being able to get there. So you open the door and you're right in the bathroom. You can use the bathroom on the side of the road. Getting into a refrigerator and stuff can be kind of tough in some of the RVs. That's something you want to look at also. Also, the beds in RVs either run what they call north-south, which is front to rear, or left to right, which is east-west. And you always want to try to have the headboard of the east-west on the driver's side of the vehicle, because most of the time when you park in like rest areas or different places like that, you're going to find that the roads and everything else slope off to the right. So if you're parked and your head's downhill, you're going to wake up, you're not going to feel as well as you do as if your head's a little higher. There's just so many variables in this. And like I say, it's a lot different buying an RV to go away for the weekend and buying an RV to go away for the rest of your life. You want to make sure that you really do your homework. I'm just kind of giving you a few of the overshots here. I will be working on giving a lot more information as time goes on. Luckily today we have a night game, so that's why I thought I'd take the time to try to shoot a quick video here and give you an idea of what's going on. Getting back to travel trailers and fifth wheels, one thing you will find is the newer RVs are not built as well as the older RVs. The problem with the older RVs, they tend to be a lot heavier. They have heavier suspension, they have more weight. They were just built under a different type of situation. The newer RVs everybody's trying to get fuel economy and lighten these units up. A lot of the suspension is lightweight. A lot of people, especially back between 2008 and like 2012, tremendous amount of suspension problems, tire problems. I talked about that a while back with the Chinese tires, getting 30 or 40 miles away from the dealer with a brand new unit and having the tire just blow out and blow the side of the RV off. These are just problems that you have to be concerned with, and know that if you're going to be living in it and you got Chinese toe tires on there, you're probably going to want to get rid of those right away. They seem to have solved the problems with the suspension on the newer units. But what you will get is you'll get a lot cheaper interior. You get less wood, you get more board, you get more glue. Some people get affected by all the glues and the materials that they use to stick these newer units together. Where the older ones, they tend to use real wood. It's more of a craftsman type situation, as opposed to just they make 10,000 of these doors and they put them on every cabinet and everything else. So the process, as far as that goes, you want to make sure that you look at some old ones and look at some new ones. Just don't sell yourself on old and don't sell yourself on new. And there's different brands. There's a lot of changing going on in the industry right now. There used to be a whole bunch of RV producers, and there's not anymore. One company owns 10 different brands, and they're pretty much the same thing, only they have a different name tag on them. I know the Holiday Ramblers, a new one. I wouldn't trade my old one for any of the new ones. I've been all through them, looked at them over in Quartzsite. I was not impressed at all. And they have pickup motors that they turn up, and they're just made, everything's plastic, and I know the few pieces of plastic I have on this, I've had to either remake or fiberglass or whatever I have to do to make them be solid and right. And there's a few pieces, a couple of the thing in the shower and the trim in there, next to impossible to get the right one. So I just had to fiberglass it. It turned out beautiful. The wife talks about it all the time, how she likes how nice it turned out. But you could do that with the older stuff. The newer stuff, it's so brittle when you start fiberglassing, it's like it wants to break more. So my recommendation on that, again, is that you take the time, you sit on the couches and the chairs and feel the foam. The foam normally feels real good for the first 6 months, and then after that it starts crushing, and then you're sitting on wood. There's just so many things that the new ones tend to not be, in my opinion, as good as the older one. It's a process of checking things out. The old RVs, this all has real leather. These chairs are real leather. The new ones have real simulated leather. And in about 6 or 8 months, if you're using it, you're living in it, you'll start noticing that the outer layers start peeling off, and pretty soon you got just big patches where things are coming off on your chair. And these chairs are real expensive. They're about $1,600 a piece, and then to get them upholstered runs almost the same, maybe $1,000. So you don't want to start having to replace that stuff right off the get-go. Enough about old stuff and how I like it better. I mean, I'm like I said before, a 70s and 80s type of guy, so I do like the older stuff. When you go to buy an RV, I'm not even going by my list here, I'm just going off this stuff here. Maybe I should go off of this a little bit. An important thing to know, and a lot of times the sales guys don't tell you, is the size of your tanks. So if you have a 30-gallon water tank and you have a 25-gallon black tank and you have a 25-gallon gray tank, you're good for a few days, unless you're really, really stingy with that water. We like to take nice showers every day. We have a 100-gallon water tank. We have a 60-gallon gray and a 40-gallon black. And a lot of times you'll fill that gray tank up pretty quick, so you'll actually utilize your black tank to pour things down. Sometimes what you use for washing dishes and stuff like that, you can pour that in your black tank, because you're not going to fill that black tank up before you fill up that gray tank. So we average, when we're traveling, about every 3 or 4 days we need to find a place like a Flying J or something so we can pull over, dump our tanks, refresh our water supply if we need propane or whatever we need to do. Flying J's are a great place to use on the highways when you're on the big roads. Another thing with RVs, you don't really have a big problem with the towables, but on the fifth wheels and on the motorhomes, they have 30 and 50 amp services. If you have dual ACs, you're definitely going to want the 50 amp service. If you have a 30 amp service, you're only going to be able to use one of your air conditioners at a time. And it can be pretty expensive to upgrade a 30 amp system to a 50 amp system. So that's something else to look at. Levelers. Now on a towable trailer, you don't have levelers. You have jacks that go down. They're called stabilizers. Never try to lift your RV with a stabilizer. You on a travel trailer or a fifth wheel without levelers, you're going to want to get the little blocks or wood. And if you use wood, if you're going to use wood to level your RV, do not keep that wood inside your RV, because when you set it on the ground, it sits out there for a while. Bugs can get in there, and when you put that wood in your RV, you start getting bugs, different kinds of bugs in your RV. You're going to be real unhappy when you figure out how difficult they are to get rid of. So if you're using wood blocks, you want to keep them in the back of your vehicle, your truck, or whatever you're using. If you're using the little yellow squares or orange squares, they're fine. You just rinse them off and they can go in your trailer. That's not a big problem. A lot of the Class C RVs do not have levelers. So motorhomes, you have to level on 3 sides. On a travel trailer or a fifth wheel, you only level on one side, because you can adjust the front, and that gives you your option. But on a motorhome, you have to usually do like both of the fronts, and one of the rears, or both of the lefts, or both of the rights. You normally have to do 2 to 3 point leveling. So you need a lot of those little blocks. For some reason, most of the campgrounds can never level their campsite. We're in a campsite right now. It's relatively level, but you have to use your levelers. Levelers are a great thing to get. Cost you $3,000 to $4,000 more when you buy an RV, but it's worth it. And when you go to resell it, it makes the RV a lot more desirable for the next guy. Appliances, your water heater, your refrigerators, those type of items. You want to make sure you're getting good quality items. There were some years in there where the refrigerators were catching fire and they were burning the RVs to the ground, and it was due to real tight bends in the tubing for the ammonia to travel through, and it was just creating tremendous heat. The newer ones, the problems are solved. The Dometics didn't seem to have much of a problem with it. It was mostly the Norcolds, and the way they solved that problem, they had a little kit they put on there with a temperature sensor, and when the unit got real hot, it would kick out and shut the refrigerator off, and then when the unit cooled back down, then it would fire back up. But it can be a little dangerous doing that because your food's in there, and you want your food, if the sun is shining on the side of the RV where the refrigerator is, and your refrigerator spends most of its time off, you can get pretty sick from food that isn't refrigerated properly. Another thing is batteries, especially when you're buying a used RV. People mix and match batteries, used batteries. If you're buying from a dealer, that's part of their safety check. The batteries are questionable. They're supposed to replace those. Make sure they match them. A lot of times they'll put one new one in with an old one, and what happens is your new one turns into an old one. Your old one doesn't turn into a new one. So in a short amount of time, you find yourself having to buy $300 or $400 worth of batteries. My thought on that is you got to check everything. I spend more time underneath RVs and in the compartments and looking at the motor and suspension, that kind of stuff, than I do looking at the interior. You can always replace a piece of upholstery pretty easily. It can be costly, but you can replace it. But replacing suspension and electronics, inverters and stuff like that, you want to make sure you got good quality and everything is working. Test everything. Don't trust that the refrigerator's working. You want to have it on, and you want to put a thermometer in there and make sure things getting cold. I had a friend buy an RV. It needed a roof, and so we actually got the price of the RV down by about $7,000, which was a good thing because it definitely needed a roof, and then it needed an air conditioner, and then it needed the refrigerator rebuilt. And now everything's working, and he's had pretty good luck with it since then. If I hadn't gone up on the roof and inspected it real close and told the guy this roof is shot, and he knew it, he was just hoping we wouldn't know it. But we got the price down a little bit, and he swore the refrigerator was all working. He had it on, and it was cooling down. Well, it never got cold enough. It got cool, but it never got cold enough. So that's things you got to check. You got to run the generator and make sure that everything comes up, that you can turn on things inside if it's got a generator and it runs, because if the generator's not working, that can be a big problem. You want to be sure to plug into power and make sure everything powers up with the when you're plugged in, and check all your plugs. Electrical problems in these things, especially like electrical plugs in the slide outs, because those things, the cords are underneath there, usually encased in something with a spring that help it go in and out. Those wires can break. It's just like bending a coat hanger until those wires break. Another thing is the slide outs. When you go to use the slide out, you want to have someone on the outside and someone on the inside and watch them. Watch if it has the covers over, the toppers over the top of the slide out. You want to watch, make sure those are going in and out properly, and when it's all the way out, it's not real loose, hanging. A lot of times people will see that it's hanging, they'll take it loose, they'll tighten the springs, and they'll pull it back out, and the springs break, and now you're in trouble. So that's another thing you have to look out for, and just watch how the slide out goes out. We have the older one, it doesn't drop down. It has like about a 3-inch little hump or 2-inch little hump on it. The newer ones, they go out and they drop down. The worst thing is trying to get them back in, having to lift them up. So watch how all that works. Make sure they're not hanging up. I think right there I'm gonna give it a stop, and I'll continue on. We're getting pretty far ahead in this thing, a lot of time. If you've learned anything from this, the main thing I would hope that you've learned is the external construction. Like I say, having the cover come over the top of the roof, come over down the sides a little ways, that helps support. The end caps, not just a flat piece of panel like on the sides, but an end cap on the front and the rear. That gives support to the RV. Most of your travel trailers aren't going to have that, but on a fifth wheel you want it if you possibly can, because it's going to give structural support. Look at your suspension. Look and see if you're running Chinese tires. Check the batteries. If you are buying a new RV, a travel trailer, or a fifth wheel, you want to make sure, if you can, because the RV dealers put the batteries in. The RVs don't come from the factory with a battery in them. So ask for an extra battery, and I always suggest 6-volt batteries. 2 6-volt batteries are like having 3 12-volt batteries, or possibly 4. They're a little bit heavier, but the thing about it is when you get out there and you're boondocking and you have one 12-volt battery, and if you have to turn your heater on when you're out boondocking, you're going to be in trouble, because that's the heater is going to be the #1 thing that's going to draw that thing down. The motor and the heaters draw a lot of 12-volt juice. So if you don't have a lot of solar panels, and at night, it's not going to do you any good anyway. I have a story about being in a place and having the battery dead. Someday I'll go dead. I'll tell you about that one. That was an interesting 3 o'clock in the morning. I think I'll stop it right there. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you want a lot more information, pretty soon here we're going to be done with the baseball thing, and we're going to have a lot more time for about a month or so before our next job to be able to do more of these type videos. Also hit the bell to get notifications, and if you want to see more of this, please subscribe. All right, thank you for now. Bye.